One weird ass looking toaster. This is a Sega Genesis. It needs absolutely no introduction, but in case you didn't know, this is the Sonic game console made by Sega in the late 1980s. A lot of people grew up with this console, and those that have are long past old enough to contribute to society, but some still haven't moved past this console after decades of age. However, these poor souls have nothing new to play. Games stopped being made for the Genesis in the 1990s after all. Or have they? Meet Neofid Studios, a developer team made up of two video game enthusiasts, Christoph and Simon Reboul. They specialize in creating Sega Genesis games in the modern era, game cartridge and all. And that's really cool. I'm not the biggest Genesis guy, but I like Sonic Spinball and Kid Chameleon. So even though this console is decades old, I'm glad these two can make games for this console using modern practices. They made a what? They made a roguelike game. And if you don't know, roguelike games are the shit. It's one of my most owned genres on Steam, and they make up about a quarter of my Steam library. So when you flash across my screen a retro-inspired, well-made action roguelike that is on sale for $3 at the time, needless to say, that game is in my library before you can blink. And that's what I'm here to talk about, which is also why I opened with the Genesis. This is Astabros, a 2D action roguelike made by Neofid Studios for the Sega Genesis. It takes place in their own Astaborg universe they've made with their last game. You play as a set of 3 mercenaries that try to free their fellow man? Intercept an attack on their kingdom? I don't know, it's not really clear what they do exactly. And like most Genesis games, they don't really clear up the story as well as most modern titles. Like, what did you really have on Sonic at the time, lore-wise? Oh, the blue hedgehog runs? Okay, and? But now the introductions are out of the way, now we can load up a title screen.
Astabros!
One thing we can notice as we get into the main title screen is that the game looks amazing. It has pixel art that is representative of like that Sega Genesis era of art, while also innovates and just looks better than most games on the console in general. This game looks like it would be an instant classic if it was actually released during the 90s. But it doesn't just look the part, it can play the part too. Once the game loads up, we can choose one of 3 characters to play as. This decision isn't that heavy as you can change the character you're playing as at any time, so just choose the one you think that looks the best. Then we hop into our tutorial area, which is where we learn that we can dash, jump, and fall through platforms, basic 2D platforming moves. And those moves are basic across all characters, so that's going to be your main moveset throughout the game. So let's get into the characters. The Knight, as you can expect, is a melee fighter. He has a sword that can deal a bunch of damage, but it's a high-risk, high-reward playstyle as you have to be within sniffing range of your enemies to be able to deal it. The Ranger is a bit more of a safer playstyle where they use their muskets? They're not muskets. To take out the enemies at range, although it does do less DPS than the Knight's sword. And then there is the Mage, where they can be at range and they can do superb damage, but they have the downside of having a mana bar to manage while dealing it. Other than these base weapons, there are actually a myriad of weapons you'll be able to use throughout the game, but that'll happen later, so I'll get to it later. The camp is our hub area throughout the game. This is where we'll recuperate and gather our belongings to set out on new adventures. You can also switch out your character by just talking to the character you want to switch to. I love this Enter the Gungeon style character swapping. It breathes a bit more life into the world, and the fact that they took the time to do this in a Genesis title is really intriguing and is decent world building. If you walked all the way to the right of the camp, you'll see the hooded figure again. He's the guy who's going to take you to every level throughout the game, so let's go ahead. The first level you're going to have is just going to be the pantry, so let's head there. Once you load into a level, you'll get a choice of a singular weapon that might have a modifier. That's it though, a singular weapon. You won't get any other weapons throughout the level unless it's from a rare mini-boss that you can optionally fight. This is one of the main gripes I have with the game. There's not a lot of mid-run progression, so the runs just end up feeling a bit empty for a roguelite. It can be remedied later with some meta progression that makes pedestals cycle through every weapon in the game, but that doesn't surpass the modifiers, so you could get a good weapon, but chances are it's just going to have the modifiers like weak and slow, and the weapon's just going to be weaker than the starter weapon you start out with. Going through the level, I realized that this game's room system is literally just the Binding of Isaac. I like the system that they have here. It's just a bunch of preset rooms and the map layout is random each time. So you'll see the same rooms over and over again, but not necessarily in the same order. One gripe I do have with it is that the enemies are not randomized inside the rooms, it's also preset. But once again, this is a game for the Sega Genesis. Are you really gonna randomize every single room and make the Genesis do that much math? The moment-to-moment gameplay can also remind me of like Metroidvanias. It's just a 2D action platformer for the most of it. It's your Mega Mans, it's your Castlevanias, it's your Metroids. I know those are different genres of game, but they follow the same pattern of jumping and killing. And once again, that's not a bad thing. It's very fitting for the era of game that this is supposed to be in. After we absolutely demolish the first boss, because there's nothing much to say about him, he's not interesting to fight against, and he's not really that difficult, we get our first orb. Now, what does this mean for us? Orbs are the meta progression of the game. This is your end goal. You're trying to get more orbs to unlock more levels, so eventually you'll get to the end of the game and save your friends. Now, before we move on to more gameplay, I want to slow down for a moment. I really like this game. I think this game's a good buy when it's not on sale and an amazing one when it is, and I got it on sale. But I am going to talk about some of the design flaws about the game. Once again, I'm not a game developer. I don't know what it means to develop a game. These things are hard to make, and I know they are. They're an art form. But I don't need to be a game developer to know what's not fun. If I didn't have fun while playing it, I didn't have fun while playing it. I don't need experience to know that. So I have a lot of problems with some of the design of the game. But take it with a mountain of salt, as, like I said, I'm not a game developer, and I definitely don't want to knock all the hard work that these two put into this game that runs on the Sega Genesis. Now, another form of meta progression throughout the game are these prison cells you'll find in levels, and this is how you'll unlock stuff to use at the camp. Kind of like Enter the Gungeon in that way, but you'll start unlocking the shop and the forge and such. And the forge is where you'll be able to create weapons, and the shop is where you'll be able to buy consumable items. Very easy to get a lay on. And you also buy this you can also buy astrology from this one fella. I have zero clue what it does. I'm sure it helps you in some sort of way. I just don't know, man. Now, once you return to camp with that orb, you'll unlock 2 more areas of the game, the manor and the circus. Now, I really like these areas. Every area is different in its own right. The platforming's a bit more difficult and different to deal with, and there are 0 reused enemy types in each area. And I really like this. It makes progressing through the game feel very rewarding, as you're not fighting any reused enemies from any area. So I really appreciate that, because once again, this is a Sega Genesis game, so I'm surprised of how much enemies they could exactly pack into this. I forgot to mention that each area throughout the game withholds different resources that you'll need to craft different weapons throughout the game, so you're always given a reason to go back and explore the area a bit more, just so you can craft new weapons. Speaking of new weapons, let's touch on that. Now, there's a problem with all the weapons in this game. Most of the weapons that you unlock feel like straight upgrades to the ones you had before. For example, the Boomerang Scepter. The Boomerang Scepter is objectively the best weapon in the game. It absolutely shreds bosses and will tank your FPS because it does so. But there's also weapons that are just direct downgrades. The Knight has the Scythe weapon, which gets rid of a little attack speed for a lot more range. But why would you ever use it over the Ranger's base muskets that have more range and do more damage? I don't even know what the Scythe's special attack does, but that might actually be just because I'm bad at the video game and not might be anything wrong with the weapon. But I don't know. I think it's kind of a little bit of a bad design there. And there's issues with having all these options too, because you don't even get to use them most of the time, because once again, you're given one random weapon at the beginning of every single level, and it could have a random crappy modifier, so you might not even want to use it even if it's a new weapon. Let's say you roll a crappy weapon, decent modifiers, but still a crappy weapon on, let's say, the first boss of the circus. Now, the first boss of the circus is very much a gimmick boss. You'll go through a bunch of different mini games that this clown has set up for you, just so you'll be able to do damage to him in the end. But some of these games is like hitting targets, and like obviously the ranger is going to be better at doing that than the knight with the dagger. I just don't like that there isn't a way to rectify this. I feel like there should be a good old reroll system instead of the system they have in place. Even the item that lets you shuffle through all the weapons in the game, like I said earlier, it doesn't get rid of modifiers. And since gold persists throughout the game, I think it would be a really good system to have you re-roll it with gold, weapon, modifiers, and all. Or even just throughout the game, just give me more weapon pedestals at the beginning, man. I only see one throughout the beginning of the... like, why? Why don't I have more? Let's say if you roll a weapon on the first boss of the circus, you're going to be in bad shape. This boss is very much a gimmick boss, and he has attacks such as dodging his balloons, jumping through rings, and then hitting his targets. And the knight with the dagger is going to do so much worse than, say, like the ranger with the bow. This also applies to his second phase as well, where he actually goes in himself and starts to light you up with his own gun. You'll be in a lot better shape if you can just move away and keep attacking him while he's in the middle of attacking you than if you had to run all the way back with a melee weapon to get some damage off. So needless to say, I beat this one with the ranger because she just made it extremely easy to just chunk through the boss and get rid of all the phases immediately. I like that each class has their own situation, but this does bring up an issue with the bosses. This was one of the more fun bosses, and I do have an issue with most of the bosses in the game. They're either bad or just not fun to fight against. They're just boring. Now I have two pet peeves with bosses in video games, one being properly choreographed attacks. I just think every attack should be at least somewhat dodgeable on a first glance if you've never seen the attack before. Yeah, it might be a bit hard, you might not know how the timing works, but I feel like there should be like at least a 20%, no, but I think there should be like a 60% chance you dodge it if you're a good player. Some of the attacks in this game are just completely unchoreographed, but it's not that much of an issue, so I can gloss over it for now. My second problem with bosses in general is invincibility states. Oh my god. The problem I have with invincibility states is they drag out a fight way longer than it needs to be. I could be actively doing damage and finding windows to do damage, but it's just going to take a lot longer for the fight to end just because I can't do damage in that moment. It also makes the fight exponentially less engaging as I think to myself, well, it's just time to dodge and I'm not looking for any more attack opportunities. And if you can say, oh, the player has iframes too, so the boss should have a crap ton of iframes, remove my iframes then. Monster Hunter does this extremely well, and every boss fight, which meaning every monster, is really engaging the fight against because you're always looking for that window to get some hits in. It's a dance between the player and the boss. It's not the boss holding up a shield and me doing 0 damage for approximately 2 minutes throughout the entirety of the fight. I can excuse the invincibility states on some bosses like the clown boss because their fights are actually engaging. You're doing the mini games and your trade-off is they're not doing attacks again for a crap ton of damage. It's very, very nice and very, very fun. And when the clown is trying to actually fight you like a boss would, you're always able to do damage to it. It's just shooting at you. You can shoot back whenever and find those windows to do damage. As far as legible attacks go, here's my baseline. Imagine a troll, and he's winding up a sword upward. Now, what you would need to assume is that the sword's going to swing it downward. So what's going to happen? You're going to roll to the left or to the right, which is perfectly fine. That's a well choreographed attack. You know what the boss is going to do, and you try to react accordingly. Now, what isn't nice is when a boss just pulls the attack out of nowhere. The first time I got hit by that punching glove on the Jack-in-a-Box boss was so unbelievably bullshit, because that's just a knowledge check. I feel like there was 0 way for me to tell he was going to shoot a projectile. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have been standing right up on the boss, But then again, you didn't give me a reason to not stand up on the boss. The biggest offender on these two rules is the final boss of the video game. The final boss is this dragon that likes to fly around and shoot fireballs, as dragons do. So it's not all that surprising that he breaks these two rules. The first one is, the first one is broken quite a bit often, but it's not that big of an issue because, well, most of the attacks are well choreographed. It's just that certain ones really aren't. This one attack in particular, I really want to talk about this one attack in particular, has warning indicators that are just wrong. They're just incorrect the entire time. The boss, you would think you can dodge the attack by standing on the edge of the screen because the indicators are not there, and then the dragon moves way behind them, and that really makes me mad. But he is the biggest offender of the second rule. As I stated earlier, he moves back and forth across the screen in invincibility states when he's moving behind the castle, just dragging out the fight. In later stages and in later phases, he does lose invincibility as he moves across the screen now, but sometimes he still goes behind the freaking castle and you can't hit him while he's in the background, which is really irritating. And when he moves across the screen, there's just this period of the time where he's just not showing up. Of course, it's for you to run over there and prepare, but still, you're dragging out the boss fight of the highest health boss in the game. What are you doing? After you beat the final boss of the game, you're rewarded with an orb as usual, but there's one more. There's an escape sequence, kind of akin to Pizza Tower. Pizza Tower did come out before this game, but I doubt they added it as inspiration for how closely these two games came out. But by God, this escape sequence absolutely sucks. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, jumping platform to platform. The issue is that there is a ton of blind jumps and a ton of unclear obstacles. Not a ton of unclear obstacles, it's only 1/3 of them. My main two issues is one with these fuck-ass boxes. These boxes right here, if you try to stand on them, they just teleport you down to the bottom, and they look extremely standable. They look like you should be able to stand on them and jump to the next thing. Nope, you can't do that. So if you're left with 1 HP after the boss, you jump on a box, fall to the bottom, and then have to do the stupid, tedious dragon fight all over again just to get back to the escape sequence. At least if I failed the escape sequence in Pizza Tower, the freaking pizza guy's a good boss to fight against. The dragon, freaking Shenron from Dragon Ball, is not a good boss to fight against. He's not fun. A boss isn't fun. And then the second part is all these blind jumps in the last part of the escape sequence. It wants to speed up. The tower falls down and speeds up as falling would do, but it speeds up to a point where you're just taking blind shots into dark from platform to platform. And if you wait for the other platform to get on the screen, you're slowly going to fall down until you get to the bottom and just instantly take damage. There's another thing here too. There's no going off screen in this game. You are not going off screen at the bottom ever. As soon as your character hits that border on the bottom of the screen, they hit a death barrier and then are teleported to the nearest spawn point. That is really, really irritating. I feel like there should be a bit more leeway there. But once again, I feel like it does make sense for a game on the Genesis. I got the bad ending of the game. I got the bad ending of the game because I rushed the boss fight as soon as I could and didn't get all of the orbs. And my save file only said I did about 56% of the game, so there's a lot more here I didn't cover. I didn't go over a whole lot of areas, actually. And the reason I didn't is because I'm here to recommend this game to you. I think this is a great title. Do I think it's an amazing modern title? No. I feel like it has some modern game philosophies in there, but I feel like it's held back by the hardware. Now, if this released on the Genesis back in the 90s, people would be telling you to go play this today. It's a very good video game if you're looking for that retro style of gameplay and you like roguelikes like me. This was a decently enjoyable experience, even with all of my problems with the game. So I would definitely pick it up. It's only $12. It's only 12 USD on Steam. So, yeah, I think it's a good steal. Will I play the game again to get the good ending? Probably, yeah. I mean, not for a while, but I will try to play it again to get the good ending, and maybe I'll share my experience on it then. This game might warrant a second video, just because of its charm and style. I'm very excited to see what Neophyte Studios can craft up next, as they are currently working on their next game, so that is a very promising experience. I do think this game is really good, if not a bit flawed. But I would definitely buy it if you're slightly interested. Apologies for the poor camera quality. I was recording the whole thing on my phone. Wirelessly connected to the computer, but apparently that doesn't work really well. So what I'm gonna do is we're just gonna try to use this cam next time I want to do something like this. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you like this style of video. I went for a bit more Scott DeWaz this time, and I feel like it might be a bit short, but it's okay. Alright, I'll see you later. Goodbye.